People waiting, man.
Oh, dang. Jenna said she got stepped on by a drunk dude.
Hey, everybody. How's everybody doing? Let us know if you can hear us good. How do we sound?
Clayton says we sound bad. You mean like I would normally sound like that, or like actually?
Don't tell me.
I think he was trolling us because everybody else says we sound good.
Deep voices. Why?
Oh, the deep voice thing's back? Oh.
I don't understand.
So does that mean if I go like this, does it sound even deeper? Do I sound like a robot?
How about now? Deep voices still? Deep voices?
Clayton's like, nope, not a troll. Deep voice.
Deep voices still? This is so disappointing. I truly wish I knew.
I mean, it's got to be the microphone, right?
How about that now?
Maybe
Deep voices?
Wait, well, you put it on mono. Try that.
Deep voices? How's the sound? Deep voices?
Maybe just unplug it and plug it back in.
The question is, does it make it sound better or worse?
At least it doesn't sound like this on the podcast.
I assume it's still bad. That was better.
That was better.
Sounds tough. I don't know what else I can do.
Can't reveal identities. Yes, yes. So we fixed it. Is that what you got?
We fixed it? We're good?
Waiting.
Like Darth Vader. Now, see. I need one person to just respond. One person. Clayton, I pass it on to you.
Luke.
Is this? Damn it! Is it doable? Can we? Damn it! How about now?
Sorry, Jenna. Just trying to have some fun here.
It'll work. All right.
Okay. I mean, yeah, and it's not the recording that'll be messed up. It's just
it's clear, just deep. All right. Well.
So we sound like we just like huffed nitrous.
I truly don't know what it is, because some days it's how I plug it in. Other days it just like today I plugged everything in, then restarted my laptop.
It's weird. Like it's so finicky. I guess it's the microphone.
I don't get it.
I mean, it has to be the microphone.
I don't get it. Better now. All right, cool. Hopefully it stays better. Hopefully it's good enough for you guys.
We'll do it live.
We'll do it live.
We'll do it live. Without cursing out a bunch.
Sorry, I gotta put it on just a couple more places on Facebook. I apologize.
It's barely weird.
It's barely weird.
Title of my sex tape.
What?
You've never played that game? Like when somebody says something, somebody says something, and you just go, title of my sex tape or something.
I definitely know what you're talking about now. These dudes said I could post it on here. I have no idea how to post this. All right, well, forget it.
Jenna didn't like that one. Sorry, Jenna.
All right, here we go.
Could be an audio sample rate issue. Oh man, now we're getting.
I wish I had the time to figure out how to fix that right now.
Patrick, I don't work in that industry anymore. So
I had 15. We had 15 watchers. Now we got 13. No worries.
So we should probably just start.
Let's just start. What's up, Atlanta? This is the Mouths of South podcast brought to you by Dirty South Soccer and the Palatial 680 The Fan Studios. I am Eric Quintana. Next to me, Sam Franco.
Yep.
Josh Bagriansky off on high school playoff soccer duty.
Druid Hills 5, Marist 3. They move on to the state semifinals.
He is deep in preparation for what the match is on Wednesday. What did he say?
Tuesday.
And he's got to watch 7 matches in a matter of 5 days, essentially. Yeah. So he's got 5 nights to figure that out, to go through all the matches of his next opponent and figure out how best to tactically jiu-jitsu his way into the finals.
That would be great. As a Red Devil alum myself, definitely pulling for Josh and again the Red Devils to bring this one home. They've gotten close many times, and hopefully they can come through this time.
Does he give the podcast more or less credibility if he, as a coach, wins a state championship?
Oh, way more.
Okay.
Yeah, tons more. Because then, like all of his what's the word I'm looking for here? All of his condescension and acting like he's better than us all the time. Then he actually has something to back it up.
So does this give credibility to Georgia soccer, high school soccer?
I think Georgia high school soccer should have always had it.
Should someone like Josh Bagriansky find a way to make himself a state championship winner as a coach?
Absolutely.
Or are we talking about, Josh with a stroke of luck, unlike any other?
Well, I think this is something
making his way to the state finals.
Of course. I mean, this is something you can talk about till the cows come home in terms of where Georgia high school soccer is on the map. I'll say this, without any of the big state institutions, I talk about UGA, I talk about Georgia Tech, they don't have big men's soccer programs. So all of the talent in this state, a very, very talent-rich state, is going other places. A lot of the St. John's, the Indianas, the North Carolinas, Notre Dame's, all of those places are getting all of the best players in the state of Georgia to go there if they go the college soccer route.
Oh, you're trying to crap on Josh and Georgia soccer a little bit, but
man, you just hate. Golly. I got to defend the hometown.
I really was trying to set up somehow to just poo-poo Josh for
absolutely
as far as he did. But
well, the thing about Josh is he's not the head coach.
I do agree with Jeno. I think we should all go to the match. Let's not even tell Josh. No one tell Josh. We'll just show up as a podcast fam to the state finals. Should he make it? Should he and his team make it?
Yeah,
you'll go because
absolutely. If they make the final, I'm going to do whatever I can to be there. I wanted to go to the Marist game. But obviously, we have things to do like watch Atlanta United and have to do this show. So
tough for Josh to miss that game last night. Tough.
Absolutely. I mean, here's the thing: getting into Atlanta United. Wow. These past few weeks,
4 out of 5.
It's been incredible
for Frank DeBoer and his Atlanta United.
And I think everybody
12 points in 15.
It's incredible. And I think everybody, when you have a slow start like Atlanta United did, and there was a lot of fixture crunch there early on, and we can rehash all that stuff later in terms of old episodes and what we've talked about. But right now, this team seems to be clicking a little bit. They seem to be, smelling what Frank DeBoer is cooking, so to speak. And it seems like they're playing much better and they're having more fun doing it. I know that this is still a work in progress, but they've gotten fortunate. They played Kansas City when they were down some players. I mean, this isn't one of those.
Look, you got to be who's in front of you.
Of course.
At the time, these are the teams that have been in front of you.
But this isn't one of those.
Despite the situations.
Atlanta United's back. Well, where did they go? And back to what? Those are things you have to ask because it's never going to be back because Atlanta United is a different team playing a different system now. So
I get why people would think, all right, we're back. We're finally scoring multiple goals. Right. We're finally more attacking. I'm just like, I don't see it as the same team from 2017, 2018. The back to this is there's no back to the 2017, 2018 team you knew is done. This is a brand new system, brand new style of play, brand new way to move forward, brand new way to attack. I mean, and I guess I'll start off with this. I tweeted out that I was going to disagree with some Atlanta United content producers. And the first one I disagree with is Jason Longshore, where he said that Joseph Martinez he insinuated he was a more complete soccer player than just being able to run onto balls.
And score goals.
2017, 2018, that's essentially all he did. It's not till this year that we've seen how well he's developed in being essentially a target forward.
He was never asked
playing with his back to goal. If he was asked, he didn't do it enough. And the moments he did do it, he just didn't look good doing it. Mm-hmm. It's not until, again, this year, in the last 4 or 5 matches, that he's shown that is in his wheelhouse. That is a skill set that he has developed and he can do now.
I would assume Frank DeBoer got in his ear for a number of different reasons there. In terms of Joseph was a player that fit Tata's system because it was basically built to get Joseph the ball with him having to do as little creating as possible. It was get him the ball, and all he needs to do is put it in the back of the net. There wasn't a whole lot put on him other than that. in this system under Frank DeBoer, the striker needs to move around a little more, set people up a little more. And we saw Joseph do that wonderfully well this weekend. This midweek game against Toronto, setting up should have had 3. They pulled that one back, and you can talk about VAR and how it's implemented until the cows come home. But
I thought they were all good goals. 2-0 to me was a good scoreline.
But again, it's more about letting the play go and going back and looking at it if it's wrong. You shouldn't just be stopped. Like that's what VAR should be encouraging. It should be encouraging. Let the play go, and then if VAR sees something, then they can be like, "Hey, we need to pull this back." Don't just stop play. Like that. That's what I think a lot of people get frustrated with. But whether it was implemented correctly or not, I think I watched it a couple times in terms of that replay. I would probably like to see it again just to be sure. But regardless of that, I think that's what you would wish for it to be implemented as. But anyway, Atlanta United right now are in such a good way, despite the fact that, you didn't have Barco in this game. And, this is still going to be a process. This is something that they're playing well, yes, but there's still a lot of deficiencies and things like that. And I'm sure we'll talk about Brett Shea here in a little bit, but there are definitely holes in this team for sure. Not to be poo-pooing what they're doing, but there's definitely it's not all, Atlanta United's back. Well, back from what?
19 shots for Atlanta United, which, man, a month ago we weren't talking about a team that was going to put together 19 shots.
No, I'll call myself out for sure in that regard. Like, I was one of those people saying, hey, Atlanta United's got to shoot more, and they're not creating shots. And, you and Josh, to y'all's credit, were preaching patience.
Well, it's just hard to believe that this is the 9th game of the regular season right now. 9th game. Atlanta United 7th in the standings right now, right above Chicago Fire. And what's 7th? What's 7th mean right now? If the season ended today, what's 7th place in the standings mean?
Not going to the playoffs.
No, we're going to playoffs.
We're
going to playoffs.
Why?
Top 7 teams go to playoffs.
I thought it was 6.
No.
When was it?
First, top team in the conference gets a bye, and the rest of the teams fight it out amongst themselves.
I was
in the first round. Atlanta United 9 matches played, 14 points. Philadelphia Union first with 20 points, 11 matches played. So essentially 2 games in hand to the top team in the East, 3 over the Montreal Impact. So, even if it were to end today, we're still you got to look at this season and think things are going in the right direction.
Oh, yeah.
Things are progressing substantially at this point. 4 out of 5 is not something we would have thought of, 4 or 5 games in.
No.
Or 4 games in, I guess.
No, especially with the, trip to Costa Rica, the games against Monterrey. Granted, not Herediano, but Monterrey is still the best team and will be the best team Atlanta United sees and has seen all season. So if you look at it like that, it's like, hey, the hardest challenge is already out of the way.
Yeah, I'm thoroughly impressed with what's going on, specifically the last couple matches for Atlanta United. I'm, despite what you might think and what you might believe based off what I saw on Twitter, I'm impressed with what Tito did last night. I think he fully earned his spot last night. Not just with the goal, but what he was able to do out wide, was able to do going forward in the attack. The attention he drew. It's going to be, I don't think it's going to be that tough for Frank DeBoer, because I think Barco is the more obvious candidate in that position. But
he's out for a month.
He's out for an extended amount of time. I still think that Miriam is going to put up a good fight when it comes to how much playing time Tito can get.
I think Miriam is probably more of a Frank DeBoer type player, but again, I still think Tito deserves that opportunity first, because he's here and he's been working really hard to try to get that opportunity. And
he's the obvious. He's the
obvious. When he made the most of it in the
exactly.
opportunity last time.
He had a moment. He had a match to show what he could do. He had an opportunity to prove to Frank DeBoer that he belonged in the starting 11. And I thought, for the most part, he proved that he belonged in the starting 11 in this moment.
Yeah, and I think that too. He brings an energy. I think that when he's in the lineup with Joseph, with Pitti, with Franco Escobar, with LGP, I think that is a different energy that's brought just because there is a camaraderie there. And, having him certainly can help, I think, team chemistry. But I think, talking about a guy who isn't very good on the ball, I'm not seeing this from Tito. He's not great on the ball. He's not Lionel Messi with the ball at his feet. But, I think certainly given the opportunities, I've seen quite a few instances this season. And there was one in particular in last night's game where he has created some space and created opportunities with the ball at his feet, dribbling around players in tight spaces. And it's happened, on a number of occasions. So I think that, ideally you would have, players that are very, very reliable in that instance. And then Tito is definitely has to improve in that area, but I think he is improving in that area.
Yeah, I think Tito's got just enough deficiencies in his game to where Barco becomes the more obvious candidate. Even Miram, to an extent, becomes the more obvious candidate with specifically what Frank DeBoer wants to do. I'm not saying I don't want him on the team. I'm not saying cut, sell him, whatever. That's not what I'm saying at all. He absolutely has a role on this team. I'm not saying it's an every match starter, but he absolutely has a role. Let's talk about the first goal. It's a great set piece from Pitti. It forces a save. I love how Joseph was perfectly
positioned. It's Joseph's positioning. That's
Joseph's
what makes
perfectly
the goal.
Positioned to receive that ball in that spot and just knocks it back inside the 6. Tito in a perfect position. And, I mean, that's what you want out of a guy like Tito.
And I think
want him to be in that position. You want him to finish it. You want him to succeed in those moments.
I think that goes to what we were talking about earlier with Joseph, too. Because, again, Joseph wouldn't have probably under Tata Martino been asked to be that wide, away from, the direct goal scoring opportunity. You know what I mean? The position he was in might not have been one Tata put him in, but, Frank DeBoer puts him out there, and he was absolutely in the perfect position, puts in a beautiful ball, and we see what Tito Villalba did with it. Although it was funny watching on TV, the camera people were sure that LGP scored that goal. Then you see the replay, and it was Tito. But that was also a great run and great finish by Tito, in that tight of a space. He doesn't really have a finesse shot, if you will, for you FIFA guys out there, was that the right trigger or one of the triggers gives you the finesse shot. That's not really.
I don't know which one it is. I don't play enough FIFA.
That's not really his cup of tea there, but he smashed that ball in there, and he was in a good position to do it, and certainly a deserved goal because Atlanta United, up to that point and beyond, were pretty much dominating the flow of this game.
It's weird. You say that, dominating the flow, and I fully agree with you that it felt like Atlanta United had full control of this match. 46% possession for Atlanta United to Toronto FC's 54.
But again, it
doesn't really tell the full story, and it really doesn't matter because of the quality of chances Atlanta United had. It's like when they did have possession, there was no way Toronto FC was going to dispossess them. Where Atlanta United lost the ball, it wasn't in dangerous moments. It was a great performance front to back. I think Frank DeBoer said it in the postgame. I think that this team has figured out exactly, at least in terms of the basics, and maybe just a notch past the basics of the system that Frank DeBoer wants to run. They've got that down. They've got that locked in. They get it. It's now, and this is what he said in postgame, it's now the details that you need to work on. When players need to push, when certain players need to go forward, when players need to rotate. It's the tiny
kind of the timing of everything.
That sounds more broad, but it's more the minutia of what Frank DeBoer wants in his overall system that Atlanta United now gets to work on because they've got a nice base down.
Just being able to read how a game is going, kind of when you need to press, when you need to back off, just those little things that are, like you said, the minutia, kind of the just nuts and bolts, the little what am I trying to say here? Little accents to making everything run more smoothly. And I think that right now what we're seeing with this team too is an understanding of everyone kind of this. And I know that it's not the same as kind of we talked about with Frank DeBoer coming in, this total football mentality, but it just seems like players, when one guy will push, it just seems like more and more often players are finding themselves in the right positions, or at least covering in the right positions. And we're not seeing guys who you would think, why is that guy doing that? And we saw that, I think, more like Michael Parkhurst making overlapping runs from a fullback position a few weeks ago. Just things like that. It doesn't seem like those kind of things are happening anymore.
I didn't feel that there was a lack of movement forward from anyone on the field, including LGP. The only one I thought that maybe, not that I expected him to do anything, but the only one I didn't really see go forward at all was Miles Robinson, which, naturally. But they never put themselves in a position where, or they rarely, I should say, put themselves in a position where when they did lose the ball, they were going to get counted right away. I think that was the difference between this match and the last, let's say, 3 that Atlanta United has played, where they've looked like they've certainly progressed and kind of dialed into this system a little bit better than maybe in the first few matches of the regular season. That's been the biggest difference to me. That's where I've noticed where this team has improved. Where if Brett does lose the ball, he's not then frantically, running back to last ditch defend. I mean, sure, we had the LGP moment at the very beginning, or toward the beginning of the match. But how often were those moments in this match? You had 1 or 2 moments from Toronto FC, and that was basically it. Yeah. And it was in those moments where, sure, maybe they had a lapse, and sure, that can punish you, but it didn't. And that counts for something.
It's why you're disciplined.
3 clean sheets in the last 3 matches.
Yeah, your players are disciplined positionally to where they know what to do in sort of a free-flowing type style, but they also know that, not to get too crazy with it. And I'll say this, too, about possession, because you talk about Atlanta United not winning possession in this game, so to speak, but possession itself is completely meaningless as a statistic. I mean, it's what you do with said possession. And quite frankly, you talk about controlling the flow of the game. I think you can still control the flow if your defense and defensively you're keeping the other team in the positions you want to keep them in. I think that is almost kind of like if you're allowing the other team to have possession and they're not doing anything with it, that's almost net possession back to you. You know what I mean? Because you don't have the ball, so to speak, but they're not doing anything with it. So in a sense, I think that Atlanta controlled this game because of that. And talking about the numbers, not really telling the complete story in this game. Like there was one point where Brett Shea had created as many chances for Atlanta United as the rest of the team combined.
He was the single biggest chance
the most prolific chance creator in the game.
Match.
And you go back and you remember all the moments like when he would do something on Twitter, it'd be like, oh, dang it. Oh, Brett. Oh, God.
See, and I was going to bring this up. That's how I sort of feel about Tito. Everyone looks at the moments that Tito has that are awesome, and they're like, yes, that's why we love Tito.
Of course, you say that.
Yeah, but I see the negatives. And so,
of course, we also. But even like when he had that one move where I was like, man, that was incredible. You were like, yeah, when he kicked it off the back of that dude's foot. I'm like, why?
Look, it would have been an amazing moment for Tito had that gone in. I'm not denying the fact that how amazing it would have been.
A little bit of luck sometimes.
But that's what I'm saying. There's whatever. Anyways, people focus on the good for Tito and then they seemingly forget about the bad. And so with Brett Shea, they notice and remember the bad moments, but don't really think about or don't recognize the good that Brett does.
And when you bust a full 360 on a whiff.
Yes, I agree. That was not great.
Of course people are going to remember.
And look, I'm not saying that one is better than the other. I fully think that Tito is the better player over Brett Shea. Yeah, absolutely, especially going forward. Don't get me wrong. Mm-hmm. But in a broad sense, that's how people are looking at Brett Shea. That's how people are looking at Tito. Because Tito has his qualities. I'm not saying he doesn't. But there's a lot of deficiencies in his game. Brett Shea, he has his moments where, yeah, he looks like garbage. But he's in the starting 11 for a reason. Probably more out of necessity than anything else. But he's serviceable. I think he's a better version of McCann. Well, to be honest,
yeah, even I like.
Imagine McCann and what Frank de Boer's trying to do right now.
Even I was at Twitter last night and was like, can't lose my spot in the starting 11 if all the other players that would play this spot are hurt. That's kind of what's happening with Brett Shea right now. Because you got to believe, fit Bello, fully fit Ambrose, and Brett Shea. Between those three, I'm not going to think that Brett Shea starts all the time.
It just depends on what the other team wants to do. It's fully dependent on the opposition. If the opposition is going to clearly possess the ball or be more attacking or play much more wide open, like against FC Dallas, I probably would have expected Mikey Ambrose because he's probably the better defender of the two. I don't even think probably. I think he's the better defender of the two to start over Brett Shea, but he's not available. Who else do you have? I know that Michael Parkhurst, and I think you're saving him for a team for Orlando City, to be honest. I don't think I got a chance to ask him, but I think that's why he spent most of the time on the bench this match, because he's being saved for specifically Orlando City.
Why? Because you want to flaunt him?
No, because he's the better defender.
That's fair.
He's the better defender between Brett Shea and Michael Parkhurst. And I think in a game like Orlando City, you want your best players given the positions. So in this case, I think Breck Shea is going to have a seat, and Parker's is going to play that left back. Unless Mikey Ambrose makes a massive recovery or something. Even then, I still think it's a pretty close contest. Well, because I wouldn't expect Mikey Ambrose to come in and play right away.
Yeah, although I don't know how concerned Atlanta is with a team that's now 2 points behind them in the table with Atlanta having a game in hand.
Another thing we didn't bring up that I really wanted to start the show with. We can now talk massive, massive crap.
Yeah, mad smack.
To Orlando City.
Yeah. And we're going to probably spend the last 30 minutes of this just...
Thoughts on the crap that we should spew towards Orlando City in the chat.
Put those in the chat. One other thing in the chat I wanted to bring up too. Let me see who did this. Oh, it was Patrick says, "How about that Guzan moment? Oh, that pass that almost goes in." I'm like, if that had gone in, that would have been maybe the worst moment of Brad Guzan.
I happened to look down at my laptop or my notes or whatever, because I missed the entire play. I missed it, and I look up, and I just see the ball heading towards goal. I was like, "What happened?" Because I see no Toronto players around, and everybody's like, "Oh, what happened?"
First of all, don't lie. You weren't looking at notes. You were eating some of that 3 cheese mac.
Oh yeah, delicious.
But in all seriousness,
delicious
that was
and not nutritious.
That was a horrible moment, and those kind of.
But how often do you have those moments from Guzan?
You don't. But I'm just saying that
specifically,
moment
and like discount anything he does with his hands. I'm talking specifically with the ball at his feet. And look, he came into Atlanta United.
Yeah, he's usually very good with.
And we thought the worst of him with this ball at his feet. And, he's proven everyone wrong.
He's been good. It was just funny to see him do that, and that was like in terms of the bad moments for Atlanta United. It was really that and the whiff by Shea. I mean, that was really it. I still think there might have been a chance for Atlanta to score some more, and that was what was worrying me when they only had one goal and they kept missing chances. It's like,
look, the idea that Atlanta United still needs to finish their chances, that's still there. I mean, when was it? Sunday that they played? No, Saturday they played. Was it Sunday or Saturday?
It was Sunday.
Sunday. That was a game where they
because I was trying to watch Game of Thrones and everything.
That's right. That was the match where they went in and they looked to finish their chances. Like, so that was a priority for them. This match, it seemed to take a step back. Although, look, being a couple steps offside, that sometimes can do for you too. But that's not so much a finishing issue. But it's clearly been a priority to them because I feel like they're picking and choosing their spots better.
Well, and that's what I was concerned with at the beginning of the season is that they weren't picking and choosing enough. And I think a lot of that was
they were almost looking for the perfect shot.
Well, and that was because I think Frank DeBoer was earlier on in the season saying, guys, this isn't Tata Martino anymore. This isn't, hey, let's take a bajillion shots again. This is, if we're going to take shots, we need to create well-worked opportunities, find players open in space, good runs, all that stuff. And I'm not saying Atlanta didn't have that before, but it was a lot more controlled chaos under Tata Martino because that's what Miguel Almiron is good at.
It's quite literally Tata's terminology.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. That's what Miguel Almiron was good at. And Atlanta doesn't have that kind of player anymore, so they're having to switch and make this adjustment because they don't have the player that can kind of corral all of that. And that's not to say that maybe one of these guys can't, because I thought Pity Martinez looked miles better.
Oh, yeah.
Than
for sure.
Where he had been playing against Toronto. And I think one of the biggest.
Here's the other places I'll disagree with Jason Longshore. Jason Longshore basically said that he's here. He's not getting comfortable. Still getting. Frank DeBoer even said he's still not. He's still got a little bit.
That sounds to me kind of like, Atlanta back, and I'm like, well, again, it's just one of those things where Atlanta and Pitti, both the team and him, are still.
I really don't think there's many people that watched that match and thought, oh yeah, he's here, he's ready to go.
When he hit the crossbar, though.
No, I'm not saying he had a bad performance. That's not what I'm saying.
No, but yeah, of course.
But even Frank DeBoer was like, he obviously this is his best game in MLS. He even said so himself.
He needs that moment, though. I think when you're a big signing like that, and Barco had a lot of pressure, and obviously his season went completely awry with whatever happened between him and whoever and romantic overtures, and we don't have to get into that. But I think if you're a big signing like that, you brought him a lot of money. If you can just have that moment, that Ben's moment where everybody's like, if that ball had gone in, the pressure comes way down because everybody's waiting for that.
I don't need that moment for him.
I
I don't need that moment for him.
It's more about you don't have the pressure on you that he has on him.
He performed great. If he performs like that every week, I'm happy.
Well, it's like with
Even
Nagby.
without scoring.
It's like Nagby, who we would love to see score more, but he still hasn't scored for Atlanta United. You know,
I don't. Sure. I think Pity at some point is obviously going to score.
Absolutely.
I think it'd be great if he scored. But if he plays the way he played last night, I'm good. I'm good with the production he gives you, playing the way he played. I think for him, he would like to get that stress of not getting this. I don't know. Did he get the hockey assist for the Tito goal? I don't think he did because that was technically a shot, right? I feel like he needs, because he still looks a little frustrated, the fact that, you know, either the passes in certain situations isn't on, or the shot's not on, or whatever. But the two set pieces that he hit were awesome.
Yeah,
those are great. Those are confidence boosters for sure.
That
a different day that maybe helps that those go in. Or something.
It also has nothing to do with the system or integrating a player. I mean, that's something that
completely,
you're going to be able to do. You know, it's like riding a bike, so to speak.
But he played so well. He was able to do things that we haven't. He was more like the player we've seen in the highlight videos in this match than any other. At this point, and I've said this about a ton of other players as well, and I mean, like ad nauseum at this point, but the consistency factor is now what's at play. You know what you get out of Pity now.
Absolutely.
Even Frank DeBoer said, yeah.
I think you know what you get, but you could be getting more, and that's what the process.
He obviously could get better and is going to get better. But I didn't watch that match and think, oh yeah, he's here, he's good to go. He's finally arrived.
No, I thought great performance.
Yeah.
But again, anybody
give it to me again.
with one game or even 2 games or even a week or 2 weeks of great games. DeBoer out, DeBoer in. Atlanta United's back. Pity, you can't do that. You can't do that with any of this yet. Because again, and you and I feel like have been trying to scream this from the mountaintops all season long. It's too early.
Even now.
Even
with the last 5 matches, 4 wins in 5 matches, it could go south in the next 3 matches.
Oh gosh,
it's still way too early for me to I was right.
Can you imagine?
That's not at all what I'm saying.
The positivity in the fan base right now. What if what if Atlanta loses on Sunday to Orlando for the first time?
It's back to
the exactly
back to the
exactly. So you can't make these rash judgments so quickly with just the turns of momentum, and that we live in a society that is everything. What have you done for me lately? Recency bias. I get that, but you've just got to have some tact here and let this thing develop.
It's just a bit of the hypocrisy that kind of gets me. There was a tweet that got sent after I sent something up to Devin for real,
and I'm guilty of it too, by the way. I would like to say that.
It's from Come and Get It 01 at Come and Get It 01.
Okay.
Kakis Burley, I think is how you say his name. Okay. We got 2 wins, and y'all want to parade this man around town like he's Pep. Hashtag DeBoer out.
Still? That was after.
It took 2 losses for everyone to be like DeBoer out.
Oh my gosh.
We won 4 of the last 5. How are we not shit this at least a little bit? At least to the point where we're not automatically DeBoer out. I'm not saying DeBoer in all the way. I'm still very much. It's still a waiting game for me.
How about this? DeBoer's the manager. That's what I'll say right now. I mean, no in, no out. He's the manager, and let's just let that be what it is.
I couldn't believe that even that. But it's frustrating. But it's frustrating to constantly hear that. To see the system progressing, to see players buying into it, to see players finally understanding what's going on, to see improvement on the field, and yet people are like, "Nah, this is not DeBoer."
I'm not going to say
DeBoer's not the reason that we're successful with the last 4 of the 5 games.
I'm not going to say DeBoer in or DeBoer out until DeBoer end of the season, because that's the thing. I mean, I just, and even then, I mean, I don't know what Atlanta United would have to do or not do for a guy to lose his job, but I just don't think Atlanta, especially with the tide right now in MLS, with managers getting the boot like that. I mean, Cincinnati just fired their guy. This is their first season in MLS, and they just fired their guy. I know Brad Friedel just got fired. That one, I think a lot of us could see coming.
Chris Lombardi in the chat says, and he makes a good point, I think Frank DeBoer has also made a ton of adjustments from what he originally
had to. And we were, especially, and I will even speak for myself. Well, of course I'll speak for myself. But early on in the process, we were all like, he's either because what he's trying to do right now is working. He's got to make adjustments. He's got to tweak things. And if he doesn't, if he's going to be stubborn and stick to the thing, that's when he's going to get in trouble. And clearly he hasn't done that. He has made some adjustments. He has tweaked some things and maybe gone off some of the rigid principles of his system.
I don't disagree with what Chris Lombardi is saying. I just think what the criticism towards Frank DeBoer was, especially when you were riding the rough wave of bad performances, was that Frank DeBoer was so married to the system. He was so married to the system because he was still teaching the guys how to work within the system.
Well, like, look,
and sure, you're gonna assess the players you have and make tweaks and make adjustments. And he said so himself.
Yeah. And look,
he wasn't married to anything. He was assessing what he had and trying to fit it into the system he had.
Johan Cruyff doesn't pick a guy to run Ajax's youth academy if he doesn't have a system or doesn't have a guidelines to go by, so to speak, and putting trust in that. And so Frank DeBoer is a man who's just as confident himself as anybody should be in his position. He's not going to sway on his, backbone of what's gotten him here, but he also knows that you do have to adjust. You do have to make those adaptations depending on the players you have, because if you're just going to run a system and you don't have the players on the roster to successfully do it, then you're not going to last very long.
You didn't have Joseph Martinez playing with his back to goal, being a target forward essentially, and having success with that early on in the season. You're starting to see progress specifically in that, and that's made a world of difference for guys like Pitti, for guys like Parco, for guys like Tito.
Yeah.
Anyone in the midfield. It's made a world of difference for those players.
Well, again, I think Atlanta United's controlled chaos with Miguel Almiron and Tata Martino, once those two left, no way in heck that was sustainable. I don't know why I censored hell there, but that was not going to be sustainable without Tata to coach it and without Miguel Almiron to be the centerpiece for it. So you had to make a change. They did. And for the longevity of these players in terms of, being successful on this team, the things probably needed to change so that they could play a system that, could mask some inefficiencies or deficiencies.
I think that Frank DeBoer is going to get the time that he didn't have in his last two previous jobs. He's going to get the time because now it seems as though at this point you're starting to see kind of the fruits of the early labors.
Plus we all know the insanity that is the English Premier League and job security.
Well, yeah. Aside from that, but he's going to get the time that he didn't have elsewhere to establish what he wants to establish.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a good player base to do that with. He's got talented players that can. I'm not going to say cover up the deficiencies in the system, but they're talented players. They're quality players that are going to shine regardless of the system, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
There's
definitely guys that stand out on this team that aren't system players for sure.
The system is going to help them be better players. I think it's going to help this team. I think the way that Frank DeBoer has them playing in the last 4 or 5 matches is a better long-term, sustainable, successful path towards a playoff run. Something that Tata Martino, even he had to change up in the playoffs because of how the teams he faced and how the playoffs are set up.
Well, and plus it helped when the Nero and Chris Armas and the Red Bulls completely crapped their pants and decided to train.
Yeah, that's aside from the point. I'm ready to give. I'm not ready. I'm still in the awaiting pattern when it comes to Frank DeBoer. I'm still patiently trying to assess what's happening, but I like what I'm seeing. I'm very excited for what this team can be moving forward, knowing that Frank DeBoer is going to be given the time, despite what the next 5 results are going to be. He is going to be given the time because you've seen what it can look like.
Yeah, and right now I think maybe a month in, 2 months in, I wasn't sold necessarily, but you still have to let things play out. Right now,
no one should have been sold.
Right, of course,
one way or the other.
Yeah, and even then, I
don't think anyone was sold on it working, but
right. But you should also not have been like, okay, this is terrible. We got to abandon ship, because right now, I feel like things are going in the right direction. I would totally agree with that sentiment, and I think that a big part of it is that the players are getting more used to it. They're getting more used to it. And I'll say this too. Discipline seems to be the name of the game in terms of, the position on the field, in terms of, the way that I guess Frank DeBoer has brought in a culture where he wants to be more disciplined kind of overall. I'm not saying Tata Martino was undisciplined, but compared to in terms of the culture and the things he had this team doing, training, things like that, I'm not saying that Tata was undisciplined. But compared to Frank DeBoer, yeah, you definitely something different there. And I think that's what kind of preaching that in, and that's part of this system in terms of being disciplined to where you are so you're not being caught out of position. I think that it's taken a while to kind of hammer that message home.
Nagby had a fantastic game. I think everyone had, top to bottom.
When was the last time Nagby had a really bad game?
I don't know.
He just doesn't have them.
Again, the only one, and I'll agree with most people who say that Breck Shea didn't have a great game. I'm not saying it was the best game. I also don't think, first of all, you're not going to trade him or cut him. I saw that.
He had a lot of moments that stood out, that's unfortunate.
I saw a tweet that said it was directed towards me, trade him or cut him. And I'm thinking, okay, well then you're not going to play with Parkey at left back for the rest of the season. That's not happening.
No. I mean, Bello, you
got to have some depth. He's gone for 3 months?
I think it was 2 to 3 months.
You got to have some depth. So look, whether you like it or not, Breck Shea is the starting left back for now.
I just love this. I'll just say this.
Aside from the times that Parker just decides he wants to play left back.
Of course. But, I mean, in the defense, kind of on that same note, the budding partnership between Miles and LGP.
You think budding?
Well, I mean, it's still – I mean, that's the thing. They haven't –
Like they're feuding?
No, budding, like a flower bud.
Oh.
Not butting.
I was like, when did you see that?
The budding partnership
yes, I got you.
between Miles Robinson and LGP, week in and week out, game in and game out, it gets better and better. They're starting to get even more chemistry between each other in terms of if one guy pushes up, one guy knows where to be. They just seem to finally be getting their own, cohesiveness together, and that's super important, obviously, as we've seen in any walk of soccer. If your center backs aren't on the same page, then that can pretty much break your whole team. And I think not only are these guys on the same page, but they're starting to get even better and better playing together. And credit to LGP for helping bring Miles along, because there are a lot of guys out there that care nothing about helping young players.
I mean, LGP, I got to give him a lot of credit because I think he's doing a better job of kind of, look, again, I'm not fully defending Breck Shea, but I'm also not, throwing him under the bus like seemingly everyone else is, because you got no other option and he's serviceable. Better than McCann. Mm-hmm. That's
absolutely.
Think of McCann in that situation. I still don't see how he's better than Breck, but whatever.
Shout out to Gaynor.
Did you see what she said?
She tweeted something to Doug, right?
Yeah. Did you see that?
I didn't see it, but somebody.
They've always got to crap on someone, or someone's always got to be the scapegoat.
Oh,
that's what it was.
When somebody was banging on Breck and then she responded, I think.
I don't understand. What does she have to gain to follow? Even now,
I don't know.
Not even on the team anymore.
I don't know. I mean,
and she's still kind of poking her nose in there.
I always loved her Twitter account because she would tweet often about her love-hate relationship with Target. And I think,
because she brought, her kid was like throwing a fit in Target?
Yeah, it was something about Target, but she always loved to go to Target, and then she was talking about how much money she spent at Target, and I'm like, you're finally becoming an American, Gaynor. It's like, that is what makes you American, worrying about spending too much money in Target. Might be like if you did a family feud of things you worry about as an American, that might be like survey says number one on the board. Spending too much money at Target.
So sure, the worst performer, the LVP, the least valuable player, I would say probably Breck Shea.
Yeah.
But it's still...
But the cohesive unit of the team is kind of masking how this is the thing. They're playing well.
It wasn't bad enough a performance where I'm like, all right. So I saw Parker's, I thought, warming up before halftime. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, is Frank DeBoer seriously going to pull Breck off right now? Is that really about to happen? It didn't, but obviously. But when I saw him warming up, I was like, are you serious? That's way too... Yeah. You talk about a confidence killer. Anyways, I'm not as low as some people are on Breck Shea. I'm not as high as I guess people are going to think that I am on Breck Shea.
I think that's the general temperature of our podcast about this season. We're not as low on the team as anyone else is. We're not as high as a lot of people are right now.
I saw it in the chat. We're riding the wave.
We're right there.
We're riding the wave. But yeah, Miles Robinson, fantastic match. LGP, great recovery early on. Between LGP and Miles Robinson on the probably the best chance of especially early on in the match, where Miles Robinson has to kind of stretch out and just poke the ball right outside the 6 for any Toronto FC. I forget who was in front of it, but whatever Toronto FC player was about to knock it in, Miles Robinson stretches out just enough. LGP forces the pass just enough to where Miles Robinson can have a reach on it. Breck is the player that gets kind of burned on that one, but he's going up against a good player, so what can you expect? And but it just you mentioned it before, the cohesiveness between Miles Robinson, between LGP, the way they're defending these last 3 matches. I think it's you're seeing the focus from Frank de Boer, so defensive early on in the season. You see it come into fruition now.
Yeah,
you're seeing what that's given at Atlanta United now.
I think a pair of center backs.
I'm hoping it continues because it's defensively it's looked great. They're in the right positions. They're doing what they got. I mean, how does Guzan doesn't make a save? If he doesn't, it's not an important one. I literally think he doesn't make a save.
Yeah, and I mean, he almost had to on that one that he kicked back. But,
sure, yeah.
I think
0-6 for Atlanta United.
Well, I think
literally
one thing,
have to make a save.
If you have, and not to keep harping on this point, but if you have that cohesion with your 2 center backs, and quite frankly, off the top of your head, can you name a better center back pairing or one that's playing as good as LGP and Miles right now in the league? I can't tell you one right off the top.
Right now in the last 3 matches, no.
Exactly. And so that cohesion can mask the inefficiencies of the rest of the back line, like a Breck Shea. And you kind of mentioned it there with Miles, maybe.
Yeah, well, you LGP now understanding what Breck Shea is has a better idea.
I gotta help him out a little more.
As to where to be, maybe, I hang back a little deeper than maybe I thought I normally would with maybe Parkhurst or Bello.
And I think with Franco back and healthy, I mean, that's a position.
Helps.
Well, of course, and that's a position you don't have to worry about. You're not thinking about it.
Because you can also shift, you essentially turn into a back 3, and there's no big adjustment for the team. You just kind of shift into a back 3 while Breck Shea is doing his thing. And look, that makes Breck Shea a liability, sure. But again, who else are you going to play in that position right now?
Mm-hmm.
You're not starting Michael Parkhurst the rest of the season.
Mm-hmm.
You got to have some depth. Breck Shea does give you something going forward.
Mm-hmm.
And go back, watch the game, look at his good moments. Just be objective, look at his good moments, and then, look at his bad moments. They pretty much even out.
He gives you something going forward. Does he? Yes, he does. He created the most chances of any single player on the team.
I would venture. I'd have
to go back and watch the game.
I haven't gone back and watch the whole thing.
Yeah,
I would venture to say, and this is kind of hate on Tito, I will agree. I would venture to say that Tito has the same number of mistakes, errors, whatever you want to call them, as he does positives in this match.
Yeah.
I think Breck Shea is in that same boat where he has just as many positives than he does negatives.
I don't know if the ratio for Tito is as close as you're making it. I think
he scored, so obviously that gets elevated a lot more.
Fair. And
I'm not denying
Tito slips a lot, and I was like, well, maybe we can have a discussion about turf because it just seems like people slip a lot at Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
Well, I mean, get longer cleats. What do you want me to tell
you? Well, no, I'm just saying, that seems to be like a turf issue. But again,
I didn't see anyone else slip.
Breck,
was that a slip? I mean, that was.
I think you'd have to look at it again. It's kind of a little bit above.
That was a whiff. That was a 1.0.
Was the 360 score necessary?
I mean, he was going to crush that ball if he got a clean hit on it. He was going to crush that ball. He absolutely. I'm surprised he didn't hurt himself. Because he wound up and whipped so hard. I'm surprised he didn't hurt himself.
I mean, it was literally like it felt like when
I felt the gust from
that's what I'm saying.
It
felt like a catapult or something. Just that much force was behind it and did not hit.
Yeah. Any other takeaways from the match?
I guess from the last 2 matches, really, because we haven't hit on Kansas City as much. I would say that, again, you have to take it with a little bit of a grain of salt because of the players they were missing. But the versatility of this team, Joseph Martinez in particular, to go from goal-scoring talisman in one game to completely selfless. I mean, the one he played off for Pereira that got called back, I mean...
That was tough. Because he could have probably scored there.
He absolutely
probably could have scored
there.
That's not a position where he's like, I'm unfamiliar with what's going on right now.
And for him to have done that was the most un-Joseph thing I think I've ever seen. But I think at this point, he got the record last year. I think this was a moment for Pereira to have. And I think when the ball went in, the place exploded because the first goal
Everyone
for
knew.
a kid, is great, and Joseph being selfless, and that would have been his third assist of the game. But it just shows you, and we talked about this earlier, with Frank DeBoer and wanting to make this more sustainable, not having as many quote unquote one-trick ponies on this team. He's bringing out things in Joseph that I think were always there, but that Tata Martino didn't require. Yeah. And I think Joseph is becoming a much more complete player.
Are people going to be mad if Joseph doesn't score double-digit goals but gets double-digit assists?
Team just needs to win.
I agree.
I mean,
if he doesn't eclipse 15 goals after breaking the record last year, but creates enough chances to where enough, and not just assists, but assists that lead to like game-winning goals, because that's also a factor we've got to think about. Is what he's doing is kind of almost, it's giving himself the ability to, one, have the vision to pass off a ball. It's not like these aren't position, again, just like the one he passed off to Pereira. It's not a position he's unfamiliar with. He could have easily slotted it past the keeper to like he always has, at least in the last 2 years. But he's looking to get his teammates involved. He doesn't need to score 1 million goals this year again for this team to be successful. He doesn't need to do that. The idea behind Frank DeBoer is to get everyone involved, to get everyone scoring, to get everyone involved in the buildup. And I think Joseph is almost taking that maybe too much to heart. Maybe.
But
it didn't cost you anything. You were already in the lead. It was going to be a good moment for Pereira. Why not? At that point, the game was in hand.
Yeah, well, yeah, absolutely. And good. I think more than anything, talking about kind of, I guess, wrapping up the wins, what you want to see in a system that is, total football or whatever, is that diversity of talent and the ability for players to do multiple things. And, did it start slow, this process of getting this team kind of to what we're seeing right now? Yeah, it did. But ultimately, a system like this is far more beneficial to players that want to be seen by coaches for possible transfers and things like that as multidimensional players. This system's going to be much more beneficial. And that's why I talk about that with Joseph, because, if you just have a guy that's going to bang in 30 goals a season, that's great. What if you have a guy that could bang in 25 and also get you 10, 15 assists? You know what I mean? I mean, that's more valuable to the team overall.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing how Joseph develops, because, this is a different Joseph. This is a new if he had it in his skill set before 2019, then we haven't really seen it. Maybe glimpses, but we haven't seen enough of it to think like, oh, this is part of his skill set. I'm excited to see, again, where the system goes, how Frank DeBoer develops his team, how Pitti develops, how Joseph Martinez develops, the eventual call-up Miles Robinson is going to get.
Well, you say that, but this is U.S. soccer.
He's going to get the call. Like, he's on top of the world right now.
Boring.
Never mind. I'm not going to say it.
I was going to say, don't curse anybody already more than you are.
Looking ahead to Orlando City. There's going to be a max capacity crowd inside Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
Hope the weather holds up.
Don't know if the roof is going to be open.
I hope so.
Really doesn't matter. I hope it's closed. It's louder.
Well, it's hot, too. I mean, it's been sticky lately.
Orlando City coming into Mercedes-Benz. Atlanta United coming off 4 wins in the last 5.
Oh, yeah, and Orlando's never beaten Atlanta.
There's that, too. You don't want to be – oh, you know what? A stat that I totally forgot about. Speaking of just going back to Tata Martino.
Oh, sweet.
And I get to thank Jenna Singleton for this one. How long, if you can remember, how long did it take Tata Martino to string 3 wins in a row?
Oh, I've seen this stat.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm. It was a while. I mean, it was like towards the end of the first season.
Like
right?
July 4th.
Oh, okay. So, okay.
And what day is today?
May 9th. Look at that.
So that clearly, Frank DeBoer is better than Tata Martino.
I also saw a stat
clearly
where it was Frank has more wins in his first 9 matches than Tata did.
To Tata's credit, I guess, you did lose Joseph after like 4 matches.
That's true. It's very true.
And you had to rely on Tito.
But you know who?
Man, I am kind of banging on Tito.
But you know who they had? Miguel Almiron. You know who Frank DeBoer doesn't have? Miguel Almiron, and you're trying to break in 50. So, I mean, you can do that till the cows come home. You know, the scales of justice ultimately tip themselves. It was balanced.
It was cool listening to Frank DeBoer talk about the pressure he faced. Obviously, he mentioned being used to the pressure that I guess Atlanta United fans and media and everything was giving him based on his time as a player and as a coach. And I'm thinking, it was probably harder.
I want to know
harder than this.
I hope one of the like a Felipe Cardenas or somebody could get this info. I want to know how Frank's assimilating, because this is his first United States job. You know, and I would just curiously like to know like what he does in Atlanta. Like, what are his hot spots? Is he finding cool places? I will say that I saw something the other day. I think I saw this on CNN where like McDonald's is starting to bring some like international items to the U.S. menu, and one of the big Dutch things, a Stroop Waffle McFlurry, is going to be on the menu soon. So maybe that's a little slice of home for him.
He said that in regards to the pressure he was facing, that he felt the pressure that obviously at like a team like Atlanta United, you want to get the wins, but even after the nice run that they've been on, he still said it. You know, you stress patience.
Of course.
Which I thought was fascinating, because I'm like, even now he's saying it's still not all together. It's still getting worked on. It's still 6 months is about the time frame that he needs. And we're 3 months into the season? 3 months into the season. So we're about halfway. And it looks good right now. For now.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's the thing, it could change.
I can't wait. This is how good it looks now. And if this is sustainable, what Frank DeBoer is doing with Atlanta United right now, and Petey gets better, and Barker gets better, and Joseph decides that he's going to score goals, and be selfish or whatever he was in 2017-18. You know,
but do we want him to do that?
I don't want. That's what I'm saying. If he decides, because I mean, I'm cool with him being whatever he wants to be right now. Yeah. You know, how much better can this get for Atlanta United? I mean, it started off bad, sure. I will fully agree. But progressively, it's gotten so much better, week after week after week. I don't care about the opponent. I don't care what their situation for the
No, because you play the schedule that's put in front of you, and you can't predict. There are so many unpredictables out there with injuries, attrition, things like trades. You just don't know.
You barely have a left back.
Yeah, that's true. You have the Jolly Green Giant subbing in at left back.
I mean, there are ways for even a team going through the stresses of a season to to take advantage of Atlanta United's weaknesses. Mm-hmm. There were ways for Toronto to score yesterday. There were ways for SKC to score yesterday. There are ways for teams, even as depleted as they are, to score against Atlanta United. It's not a secret how to beat Atlanta United.
By the way, shout out to our
Colorado almost beat Atlanta United, or at least almost drew Atlanta United. Like, come on. As depleted as they were, they found a way.
Shout out to our man Doug Robertson, because I thought Michael Bradley looked like crap yesterday.
He didn't really help himself.
No.
I thought it was kind of funny that, does he still deserve the booze? Like, we all know what he is at this point. Like,
I think it's harsh. I mean, the debut hit for what? I mean, he just because he wasn't good as the U.S. men's, just because the U.S. men's national team underperformed when he was like the captain.
Don't get me wrong.
That's why we're booing this guy.
I fully think that U.S. men's men's national team needs to move on from Michael Bradley.
Oh yeah,
officially.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'd say you're not coming back.
Like, I'm done booing the guy. Look, World Cup's over.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you. It's weird who gets picked up to be booed. It just random things happen like that, and it's unfortunate because nobody wants that.
All right, so going back to Orlando,
yes.
A better team that Atlanta United has faced, a better Orlando City team that Atlanta United has faced in the past. You do have the benefit of being at home. I do think that having the crowd.
How much better though?
Not by much, but they made improvements.
They do have Nani.
And he's made a drastic difference.
He really has.
It's again,
it's almost night and day. And he's a player too, I think, that came in. And we talked about this before with DPs. You got to get DPs with chips on their shoulder if they're that kind of player. We talked before it ended horribly with Toronto. Giovinco, he came into MLS with a massive chip on his shoulder. I think Nani, kind of the same way, was very much cast off over in Europe, and he came over here with that. He's played very inspired soccer.
They've had like an up and down, like a weird up and down season so far. It's not been awesome, but it's not been terribly. I don't know. They just lost to Toronto. Take that for what it's worth. I'm sure it was a completely Toronto team that they faced. They drew NYCFC, and NYCFC still doesn't have a striker, so take that for what it's worth. Beat Vancouver, lost to RSL, and 4-3 win over the Colorado Rapids. And you got to think that Colorado went into that match with the similar mentality that they went into. They seemingly go into every match where they're just going to bunker and
fully clinched,
and kind of wait to see what kind of punishment they take. So, it's not that. Look, Atlanta United should win the match on paper. The game obviously isn't played on paper. That's not a prediction. I'm just saying. Frank de Boer was specifically asked about the rivalry.
This is his first time being kind of
introduced to him. I think he understands. I think he gets it. He not only geographically, but he understands that in the short history between the two teams, there's a lot of back and forth on social media. There's a lot of animosity towards the two different fan bases, or between the fan bases.
It's way more of a fan base rivalry, although things got a little chippy at times last season. I think that the sort of rivalry that has developed between the two fan bases has bled over a little bit onto the field. I don't know how much, but I mean, it certainly got a little chippier than your average run-of-the-mill games did last season.
I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to see how it goes down. I'm excited to see how Pity plays. I'm excited to see if Tito gets another banger to crush Orlando's dreams.
Now, have Orlando people already crept back onto your Twitter awareness? Because this happened to me during the game.
So truly, I'm kind of amazed that they didn't take more advantage of that because I haven't heard. I heard a little bit from who's the guy that called me a mouth breather?
Yeah, I think this is the same guy.
So I not heard. I don't know if I blocked him or not, but I haven't heard from him in a while. And he kind of creeped in toward the beginning of the season. But that was like 2 or 3 tweets in a matter of 2 days, and I have not heard from him since. But I mean, they don't really have room to talk.
Okay, so wasn't this that Tropic Scar? Isn't that one of the guys?
No, that's not them.
Okay,
my guy was something Valentine or something like that.
Oh yeah, Valentino. Was it something Valentino? Yeah. This guy got into mine because our man Payson over at Dirty South Soccer tweeted, "Is there anything more embarrassing than a yellow card for simulation?" And I quote tweeted that and said, "Being an Orlando City fan?" ? And one of them liked it, and then it's and I think they retweeted it to show all the Atlanta people are already talking crap. It's why they monitor Atlanta? They're weird about that.
This would be a match where I would really like to see Justin Meram find a way.
Oh God, if Meram could score, especially with how horrible that fan base was to him.
I mean,
they were sending him death threats, right?
We're bad. We're as a fan base, we're really bad on Breck Shea, but no one's sending him death threats or whatever they were sending Meram.
Yeah,
for sure. I mean, that's going way too
also,
far.
This is MLS, man. I'm not trying to downplay the league or anything, but again, this is sports. You're sending somebody
that's the most important.
Sports.
Ultimately, you're not curing cancer. It doesn't really, in the grand scheme of things, I'm going to hurt some feelings, but it doesn't mean as much as people think it does.
No, but it still feels good.
Yeah,
it's about
those
good. Feelings.
It's still part of the culture. It's still something to get excited about.
But there's no reason to turn it into as much of a negative as it seems like Orlando's fan base does. Everything's a negative. Bleep Atlanta. Bleep these guys.
They're ready to go to blow.
We hate all of y'all. You guys are successful. We're miserable. That's what it is. It's sorry, we're good. I don't know what you want us to do about it. Be bad. That's the thing. A lot of fan bases are mad at Atlanta because Atlanta's fan base hasn't really had a whole lot of adversity to go through. But what would you have us do?
This is the best troll job I've heard of. I'll give Orlando fans credit for this one. There was an Orlando fan tagging Game of Thrones spoilers with hashtag ATLUTD attached to his tweets.
Luckily, I'm on top of everything Game of Thrones, so I don't have to worry about that.
I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I would have hated the person that did that had I seen it, because this is the one episode where it took me a couple days to actually sit down and watch it. But that's awesome. That's not awesome. That's hilarious.
That's pretty funny. I mean, if you're gonna be a jerk,
that's a way to troll.
Yeah,
that's grade A trolling right there.
I mean, I would not appreciate it if something got spoiled for me. I almost
neither would I. But I mean, now that nothing's been spoiled,
Well, like earlier today, my older brother was like,
A for effort, buddy.
my older brother was like, man, I still haven't seen Avengers. And I was like, really? And it was like, he was like, well, have you seen the Spider-Man trailer? And he was like, no. And I go, yeah, you should watch it. And I was like, no, wait, don't, because it has a bajillion spoilers in it. Don't do it.
Ultimately, I don't imagine Justin Meram is going to get if he gets playing time, maybe 10, 20 minutes or so. I'm just thinking this in the scenario where, it'd
be great to see him run out.
Meram, I mean, the thing is, he's got to do it. If you're going to give him the opportunity to score against Orlando, do it in Orlando.
Oh, yeah.
Because what happens then, he's got the hand of the ear. He's running behind the goal, right across the face of the wall, and everyone's going to let him have it.
Mm-hmm.
He's got to prepare for the beer, prepare for the cans,
yeah, absolutely,
prepare for it. But, I mean, hand to ear, and,
Yeah, but, I mean, their section...
If middle fingers were appropriate, that would be the instance where I'd be cool with the middle finger.
It would take a lot to...
It'd be poor sportsmanship, but...
Actually,
given what he went through.
Are Orlando fans still banned, or did that go away?
I think that went away.
Okay. I just remember that happening, and, I know where the opposing team usually sits. The opposing team's fans usually sit right underneath the press box.
Yeah, so, I mean, at home, it's not going to have the same effect.
I was going to say, if they're, throwing beers from the, 200 section, I don't know how far they're going to go.
But if Frank DeBoer can find a way in his heart to realize what's going on between Justin Meram and Atlanta City, I would love for him to start. I think everyone can agree, start Meram over Tito for that Atlanta, or find a way to adjust to have Tito and Meram find a way to get Meram on the field.
Tito likes scoring against Orlando, so I don't want to keep him.
I don't know. That's why I took it back. Find a way to get him on the field. That way we can have that juicy moment.
Absolutely.
Just another reason, just right in the just.
And again, it's so funny because sporting wise, this isn't a rivalry.
No, come on, don't say that.
They haven't.
No,
Orlando hasn't won yet.
I don't care.
No, I'm saying
it's a very unique. It's a very unique.
I don't think you're understanding what I'm saying, though. It's not a rivalry competitively. That's what I'm saying.
No, it is. It is. Both these teams walk into the stadium hyped as hell to beat the crap out of the other team.
I'm not using competitively in the way you're thinking. I mean, in terms of sporting history, Orlando. One team has to at least beat the other team one time.
It does not matter to me because the way both these fan bases go at each other, the way both these teams walk onto the field ready to just not go to blows, but
photoshopping billboards.
Yeah, ready to beat the crap out of the other team in terms of the scoreline. That to me makes it a rivalry. I don't care what the history is. I don't need history. I don't need it. I've got two teams that don't like each other.
That's absolutely.
And I like one of those teams. I don't need the history. I don't need it.
Oh, I just hope that
anyone that doesn't think that this is a rivalry, just
the last two games for Frank DeBoer, I'll say this: Sporting Kansas City, Atlanta had never beaten them. Now they have. Toronto, Atlanta had never beaten them. Now they have. Let's just hope that this weekend is not another first. Orlando has never beaten Atlanta United. Let's just hope that it stays that way.
If it does happen, I think it's because Pity has a terrible game. Maybe he gets caught up in the moment. Maybe he gets.
Do you think we could be up for some squad reshuffling here?
Maybe.
I mean, no. I don't think there's any dramatic rotation or anything.
But what I'm thinking is maybe Pity gets baited into something. Because if there's one player that doesn't know what this is all about yet, it's Pity.
Did I hear Toronto, or is it Kansas? No, it's Toronto. Made 9 changes from the lineup they had the game before.
Yeah, they shuffled big time.
Oh, I'm saying, I don't think I've ever seen Atlanta United do that.
Miles Robinson, as composed as he has been, could he, as someone who, sure, he's been with the club long enough that he knows what this rivalry is about, but could he be someone that maybe gets baited into something, considering this is going to be is this the first time he's played against Orlando City? I'm trying to think if he played last year in a pinch. I don't think so.
I can't remember.
Who else would be new on the field? Everyone else has been here before, right?
Bragg.
But he's played with Orlando, so he knows.
No, I know.
He knows the deal.
Look,
and he's been in MLS long enough to where he knows the deal. All right. Anything else before we wrap it up?
I'm just kidding. Game of Thrones.
I do want to display my shirt. I was going to do it last week, but I couldn't. I just think this is a fantastic shirt.
No, that's good.
I'm going to show the people on YouTube. I got my presidential candidates for 2020. Maverick and Goose.
I like. I think
Maverick and Goose.
I mean, they always have shirts like that. I like. There was one. Was it a White Pinkman?
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, I'd vote for the white pink mentality.
Maverick and Goose. And then at the bottom, I didn't even show this to you guys. It just says in small print, bring back that love and feeling.
You got that love and feeling.
Bring back that love and feeling. And it's not the national anthem anymore. It's you've lost that love and feeling. Yeah, that's what you sing at every game now.
No problem with that.
Maverick and Goose. Let's make it happen.
I also like that Atlanta United, it seemed like the Golden Spike this week. I had no idea who that group was. I looked them up and listened to a song. Banging.
Really?
Yeah. Escape, I think.
I didn't catch them though.
I think that's what it was. So I this was like, who is this? And I clicked YouTube, clicked one of their songs. I was like, oh, the R&B, a little smooth.
Jenna brings up a good point before we wrap it up. I think she meant to say, I finally feel like pity is ramping up to something. And I want to hope that means ramping up to something crazy in Orlando. Be great if that's where he pulls out a hat trick.
Or even just a ridiculous freaky goal or something.
Anything. I'll take anything.
Then Barco won goal of the week for the one against, I think I saw that, where he won goal of the
player of the week.
Oh, he won player of the week?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's still a very nice goal that he scored there against Kansas City. Unfortunately, we're not going to see him, but hopefully Pitti has a moment similar to that. Also, we haven't really talked about this just really quickly. Do you have any interest in keeping up with the U20s other than just to monitor Barco's
Barco, yeah, and then the U.S. Men's National Team, just because I have
your boy,
a rooting interest,
yeah.
So I do have, yes, I do. I will be keeping up with Juan Pablo Torres.
That's right.
He's a bud. Oh, my bad.
It happens. No worries.
All right. A couple housekeeping things. We're changing platforms, and
yes,
the name of the new platform escapes me, but it's basically through SB Nation. I think that's literally the name of it.
It's like Lunchbox or something.
Yeah, Megaphone.
Hey.
But
that was close.
We're changing the platform we send out our podcast streams through, and it's going to be through SB Nation. It's going to also include Five Stripe Final.
Yes.
So it's going to be kind of a duo thing. So
the Dirty South Soccer Audio Network.
So for the next 3 episodes, next 3 weeks, or whatever 3 episodes, we're going to put them both on Blog Talk and on the new platform through SB Nation. So you might get them twice. What we are looking for you to do, this is some homework for you, is to basically go to your podcatcher, go to iTunes, and subscribe to the Dirty South Soccer podcast.
Yes,
is what we're looking at,
because it is both.
So we're going to be on both. It's you're going to get ours. You're going to get Five Stripe Final. And if you want to support the podcast, for one, it's not going to go on Blog Talk Radio after the next the next three episodes.
Right. We're grandfathering.
And if you want to support the podcast, this is a way we're monetizing the podcast a little more than before. Mm-hmm. So,
subscribe.
This would massively help.
Yes. If you're not
we're not talking about like any rich money. We're talking about like beer money.
Well, it's if you're one of our Patreon people, that's cool. We love y'all. Thank you for helping us out. This would be a way where you can kind of help us get money without actually spending any of your own money. So,
for sure. You can follow me at Eric G. Quintana on Twitter.
At Sanjay Franco right here, and very much looking forward to Atlanta once again tearing down Orlando City this Sunday.
It's got to end sometime,
but not today.
Let's just hope it's not this weekend.
You remember, not today.
At MOTS Podcast on Twitter, you can follow the YouTube channel. Just search for MOTS Podcast on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. Dirty South Soccer, all the latest news and notes regarding Atlanta United and anything else. Patreon.com if you do want to donate to the podcast. Patreon.com/MOTS Podcast. And we're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. Join us there.
Yeah, we didn't really talk about the Champions League any because it's not really what we do.
Yeah, we didn't do that.
But it was pretty cool.
It was crazy. I just don't get a chance to watch it. And so I have to go back and we're so wrapped up. I mean, we've already gone an hour and 15 on Atlanta United.
Well, it's so funny just because
I can't do more soccer.
There's so many people. Yeah, I'm not getting into it other than it's just within Dirty South Soccer. It feels like I'm not one of these people. You're not. Josh isn't because he's an Arsenal fan. But it feels like there's a split divide right in the middle between Tottenham and Liverpool. There's a bunch of Liverpool people and there's a bunch of Tottenham people. So it's going to be very interesting to just kind of, from our selfish perspectives follow along with that and see how
I want to watch
the divide of the Dirty South soccer staff.
I just want to watch this match in a neutral. Well, I want to be the neutral in a bar divided.
Oh, we got that. I'm down for that. We got to help us out with this, listeners. Which bar will be like divided the most? Because I don't want to go to a straight Liverpool bar. Don't want to go to a straight Tottenham bar. I want to go somewhere where
I need Liverpool fans on one side. I need Tottenham fans on the other side, and I'm going to sit right in the middle.
Or we can just create
watch. I'm just going to watch.
We should just create this. Any Mouths of the South listeners, get all of your. If you're a Liverpool fan, get all your Liverpool friends. If you're a Tottenham fan, get all your Tottenham fans. And if y'all want, we'll find the bar just so Eric and I can watch all of you.
I don't know this, but Chris Lombardi is saying that they might have or that they will have the final showing on the Halo board before our match that day.
Oh, I remember watching was it the Champions League final last?
Do you know where I am watching the match then?
Oh no, the World Cup final. That's what it was.
Yeah. That was cool. All right, that'll do for us. We'll talk next time. Until then, see you later, Lana.
Squids up. I don't know why I said squids up. I guess people will just tweet us squids. That would be cool, though.
Don't say anything.
Huh?
At least don't say anything you'll regret.
Oh. Well, no, I was just saying it would be cool if, like, you could literally find a bar that was 50-50 and